that was? Kermit. Kermit. I love this. It's such a wonderful song of authenticity. It's being who you are, which is really what we celebrate on Pride Sunday, Pride Weekend. So we're celebrating who we are, knowing that we are perfect just as we are. Thank you, John, for reading that wonderful new manifesto by Bishop John Shelby Spong. He was the Archbishop of Newark, New Jersey, yes. He's a friend of mine. He and his wife are just two of the most wonderful people in the world. And he just had it with attitudes of separation and division within the church. There's a really interesting phrase he used called, he said, biblical ignorance. In reading into the Bible, things that are not there, we have a term in the church business, in the Bible business. It's called biblical eisegesis. Has anybody ever heard that word? Biblical eisegesis, the angel, of course, knows what that means. Bible eisegesis is also known as proof texting. So proof texting is when you read into the Bible something that is not there. It's having your own opinion about what is being said. Like saying Adam and Eve sinned because they ate from a tree. That Eve is the reason why Adam ate from the tree. Therefore, it was the woman who started the whole thing to begin with. Therefore, you are Jezebels, you are evil. Eve, get it? Eve, evil. So it's your fault, essentially. That is called proof texting. Saying it's a woman's fault that we all ate apples and we are where we are today. Sodom and Gomorrah is another example of proof texting when they say this is, it's about the evils of homosexuality. No, it's about the evils of gang rape. It had nothing to do with loving sexual relationships or loving same-sex relationships. Even Jesus and all the prophets said it's about inhospitality. It's about not treating your guest well, is what is being said here. So, eisegesis is taking an argument for something that is not what the author intended. It has also led to notions that women are considered to be half a soul. That you're not completely the same holiness as a man. That Gentiles are less than human. That dogs are considered to be dirty and diseased. Anybody have a dog here? We certainly know that's not true. And that people who mated with same-sex were abominators and defilers of the human race. Now for the orthodoxy, women, Gentiles, and Dalmatians are now respectable. But at one time it was not. But those who are same-sex oriented are still, in some quarters, reviled, hated, and persecuted. Terribly. So why should this be? What does the Bible really say about same-sex love? What did Jesus say about it? Now there's a lot of material out now about the issue of homosexuality and the Bible. With one side saying that the Bible flatly disapproves, and another side saying that the 6 what we call clobber passages mentioning same-sex activities have been misinterpreted and proof text out of context for political purposes. Like Bishop Spong said, we have to read the Bible with Jewish eyes. I love that. We have to read the Bible from a Jewish consciousness because that is how it was written. It's the only way we can make sense about what the authors intended us to know about our relationship with the divine. In the beginning, the Jews were told to go multiply, grow the Hebrew tribe to where you have enough people to create a nation and a culture. Now, it was believed until the 1700s that each seed from a male sperm contained a complete human being. Think about that for a moment. Tiny, tiny little man and woman. And then the woman was essentially an incubator for this tiny, tiny little person to grow for 9 months. It was considered to be a waste of a Jewish life to not put that seed in the woman vehicle to create another tribe member. Again, women were seen basically as half a soul, and that the real function back then for women was to help move the tribe forward. Now, if the seed wasn't planted in the woman and was put somewhere else, it was considered to be an abomination. Now, an abomination is an act that is against the law of Leviticus that governed Jewish life. An abomination was an act against the Levitical purity code, It was a code that said, here is what it means to be a Hebrew individual. And if you went another way, that was another tribe. That was something else. Therefore, eating shellfish was an abomination because the Middle Eastern waters were too warm. And the shellfish could poison you. It wasn't like Maine, where they have great lobsters. The waters that were warm were not good for shellfish. It was an abomination to eat pork. Why? Because you get trichinosis. You could actually get sick and die from eating pork back then. Today, not so much. Wearing clothing of mixed fabric was an abomination. It was right up there with eating shellfish and all that stuff. You have to wonder why. Why was it such an abomination? Well, maybe they knew polyester was coming and they wanted to. Who can say? Who can really say? Now, the Hebrew word for abomination is tovah. Tovah also means mixing, and it means confusing. So mixing things together was not only forbidden, but it was also very confusing for the tribe. Saying what is really Hebrew and what is really the other tribe. In that context, the Hebrew people were always afraid, because there were so many tribes around them, of losing their identity, of losing what made them the Hebrew people. Purity was mandatory for survival, according to the Levite priests. You have to do this to be considered to be Jewish. But then they had the other abominations they listed along with that, such as touching a woman who was menstruating, or having one touch you was an abomination, which is why it's so shocking to the people back then when the woman reached down and touched Jesus' robe. Because according to this, that made him impure. And they also kind of backed off. And he said, what did he say? He said, go your way, your healing is here. You have been made whole. There was no condemnation because she reached out for her healing. Daughter, your faith has made you whole. That was enough. You also couldn't approach the altar of God if you had poor vision. That was an abomination if you wore glasses to come and worship. How many people are abominating today? Oh, John fixed the glasses over. Welcome to Abomination Anonymous. So we see that people were abominating left and right. They were just abominating all over the place there on a daily basis. So we have to look, the Hebrew Bible was written for Jewish men. Do I understand that? Yeah. It was written for the men to be able to control everything in his life. The Hebrew Bible was written for Jewish men who were considered, all of them were considered to be, even though they didn't have the word back then, heterosexual. The concept of homosexual, heterosexual, different kinds of sexuality was not even considered. There was one, that was it. And if you didn't fall in line there, you were an abominator. Now, of course, we know that there was a more cosmic reason for the Bible coming into being. That there's a reason why it has lasted this long. And it goes beyond the limited scope of the writer's metaphysical/mystical understanding of the nature of God, and therefore to the nature of our holy being. More than anyone, the rabbi and wise man Jesus knew the truth. That the Bible really was about taking the nuggets of truth out of what was written by human beings. There's a song cue. I was like, oh, are you ready to sing again? What was that? Everything good? Okay. You know, Jesus was always butting heads with the Pharisees, with the people who were looking out for abominations all over the place. Which I find so ironic considering all the nasty and negative things that the church has done to people throughout, from the beginning all the way through the Inquisition until today, in the name of Jesus. I know Jesus must wince every time he hears somebody say that, and then act in a very un-Jesus-y way. He's always like, leave me out of this. It has nothing to do with me. The religious right in Jesus' day took him to task for allowing the disciples to pick fruit on the Sabbath. When they complained to him, he said, the Sabbath was made for us. We weren't made for the Sabbath. This is all for us. When he healed on the Sabbath, instead of the Pharisees giving thanks, they said, is it right you should heal on the Sabbath? He said, isn't doing God's word right anytime? Of course it is. When a woman was taken to Jesus as an adulteress, it was known that the scripture demanded stoning to death as a punishment against that abomination. And Jesus said, as we all know, all right, who hasn't messed up at one time or another, take the first shot. And all of a sudden, everybody was gone. And he said to the woman, I don't condemn you either, go away. Go on your way. There's no condemnation, meaning there was not a reason needed to forgive, because God never condemned in the first place. This is an astonishing teaching that we rarely see in this story. There was never a need to forgive. There was never a condemnation. We're the ones who are condemning ourselves, so we're the ones who need to forgive. It's a tool that we have. God's love is everywhere, available to anyone who goes within and realizes we are already God's perfect, awesome, and marvelous beings of light. I love myself just the way I am. Another example of Jesus sharing this truth of complete acceptance with us is found in Matthew 8. Now, Reverend Mel White, the founder of Soul Force, revealed this to me, and it's been one of those most profound discoveries that made me see Jesus in another powerful and life-changing light. In this chapter, Jesus is approached by a Roman centurion. And according to the English translation, the centurion says, my servant is terribly ill at home. Would you come heal him? And Jesus says, I'll come see him. And the centurion said, no, just your word, and he'll be healed. I know as a man of authority that whatever I tell another to do something, it'll be done. Jesus, his mind was blown by this, because here is a Roman centurion, a Gentile, who got it, who understood how this worked. He turned around to his followers, who were absolutely in shock that Jesus was even talking to a centurion. And he said, not even in Israel have I found anybody with the faith that this man has. To the centurion he said, go, it is done to you, for you, as you have believed. And according to Matthew's writer, the servant was healed at that very moment. Matthew 8, we could do a whole 52 talk series on every single Sunday. There's so much in this for us. If we really understood this, our lives would be transformed permanently. In approaching a Bible episode, we get the fullness of what's being said, what is being revealed, when we get the understanding of what the culture was going through at the time. To really get what a Bible is saying, what a story or teaching is saying to us, we have to go back to why was it written, what was the purpose of this, and what does it mean for us today? But especially, why was it written back then? What was so important that they wrote this down and it's continued to affect us this far out. Well, remember back then, Israel was under Roman rule. The Romans were hated by the Jewish people with a passion, with an absolute passion. It would be like if the state of Alabama came up and took over the federal government. I know it's kind of makes us shiver a little bit there. Imagine every building here from now on had a Confederate flag flying from it. That every radio station had Minnie Pearl only. That they closed down all the wonderful delis and put in a Piggly Wiggly. No more Whole Foods. It's just the Piggly. Or is it the Wiggly? Imagine the only brunch we could get would be a Grand Slam at Denny's. I know, it's just, that image is just so much. Well, the Romans made everything 100 times worse. You could be killed for any reason. If you looked at a centurion wrong, they could kill you and nobody could say anything. They taxed everybody beyond what they could comfortably pay. They often, I don't know where I'm going to get the money from. They treated Judaism as a joke. They thought it was silly. One God. Again, they jailed you or killed you for the smallest infraction. It was a living hell, living in Israel back then. And on top of being subjugated to Rome, the soldiers brought with them their abomination practices. Many of them, as we know from history, had relations with their male servants. And some of them were even like a married couple. They were abominating in Jerusalem, and they did not know how to deal with that. The Romans were despised. They were hating for bringing their so-called cultic practices to the Holy Land. So when a centurion, a leader of the abomination, the abominators, came to Jesus and had the nerve even to speak to him, imagine the horrors that the followers of Jesus were going through. Heal my boyfriend? Their heads must have been spinning. This was way worse than talking to that Samaritan woman. Well, it's known that the Romans did have their male companions with them. But how do we know this one did? We were servants. How do we know that this was a male companion? Well, that's where knowing the original Greek comes in handy. The original Koine Greek is what this part of the Bible is written in. Now, usually the word for servant in Greek is written as doulos. One who is a household servant in Greek is found in the New Testament as doulos. But in this verse, the word for servant is in doulos is pious, P-A-I-S. Pious in Greek doesn't mean servant, it means boy, young man. More specifically, beloved or a special friend. In the original Greek, the verse reads, "This boy of mine, my beloved, is laid up as a paralytic in my house." Way different than we've ever read. Like, whoa, where'd that come? This comes from knowing what is really being said. So the crowd, when they hear the centurion say this, they were muttering to themselves, how dare this Roman abominator come to Jesus and ask about healing his boy? What is the rabbi going to say? They were all just waiting with bated breath. What's going to happen here? And Jesus said, sure, I'll come. Jesus, do you know who this guy is? There was absolutely no judgment of the man's relationship with his beloved. The crowd must have just fainted dead away at that point. The muttering and the murmuring must have been deafening. Jesus saw in everyone who was considered to be an outcast, a child of God, who had the power to be healed and awakened to the fullness of life, love, and joy. It didn't matter who they were, if they had an ounce of faith, a mustard seed size of faith. Jesus was good with that. No judgment, nowhere. So the leper, the mixed breed Samaritan woman, the adulterer, the Jewish men who worked for the Roman government as tax collectors, talk about being hated. The prostitutes, the homosexual centurion, and his lover, all perfectly awesome just as they were in the eyes of Jesus. All perfectly created in the image of God, which is pure spirit, pure light, pure love, pure joy, pure wholeness, regardless of who they were. And it would have been an amazing story had it ended where it did, with Jesus going to the centurion's house and doing his healing. But the centurion said, hey, I'm a man of authority. I know how this works. You say, come, go, do this, do that, it's done. I know how this goes. All you have to do is say the word, my beloved will be healed. And Jesus' jaw fell to the ground. It's like, oh my God. He had never heard anything like that. He said, in all of Israel, I've never seen anything like this before. Here was a supposedly evil Roman imposter, imposer, bringing his lifestyle to and making Israel the dark, horrible place it was turning into, who had a spiritual understanding better than anybody Jesus ever encountered. Jesus knew that those who were outcasts generally had a deeper understanding of spirit because they had to. Anybody who's been through life and been through the challenges know spirit within you got you through this. And spirit is getting you through this. Those who have been beaten by society, vilified by others, called less than, unclean, evil, and unworthy, have to dig deeper to really find the truth, to really find the God that we are inside. Many years ago, a fourth grader was sent home by his teacher with a note to his mother saying he had been found incapable of learning. Imagine telling a 9-year-old you're hopeless and you're never going to amount to anything. This boy had trouble concentrating. He couldn't read well enough to keep up with the other kids. Maybe somebody in here, maybe a few people can relate to that. That you know you're smart, but there was something about book learning and the educational system that just didn't really work in the way you needed it to. So the boy's mother had to teach him herself. And she really wasn't quite sure how to proceed with her son. She was a farmer's wife, along with doing other chores, and now she was called upon to take care of her son and teach him. Well, they lived on a farm, and on the farm was a windmill. She decided to set up a classroom inside the windmill, using the space at the very top for a classroom. Every day she would take him there, they would read and laugh and talk about life, and she would let him look out the window and just daydream as long as he wanted to. And she said, I want you to think about what you want to be when you grow up. What do you want to do on this planet? His formal schooling didn't go beyond what his mother gave him. But what it did give him was the confidence that he was not a moron. Gave him a chance to dream and use his imagination without having limits being put on it. And it ignited his intellect to such a degree that he loved to learn every single day. That boy was Thomas Edison, the hopeless, incapable 9-year-old that the educational system gave up on, but his mom didn't. The inventor of the light bulb that worked, among other amazing inventions, was called hopeless and stupid by those who didn't look beyond the surface. Edison's mother saw the Spirit of God at work and called it forth when nobody else did. Jesus revealed the truth to those who have been most hated, the most hurt, the most spat upon, the ones called hopeless, incapable, and disposable. Go your way, nobody has condemned you. Daughter, your faith has made you whole. Never have I seen such faith. Your boyfriend is healed. Don't ever, ever think for one moment that you are any less than perfect because you are different in human expression. You're just as perfect as anybody else, ever. You are a glorious creation of God. You're perfect in skin color. Look at your skin for a moment. I know you see it all the time, but look at it. It's a perfect color because it's a perfect hue. Affirm with me. I love my color. Together. I love my color. Again. I love my color. One more time. I love my color. There you go. Sometimes I don't love my color so much when I'm in the sun I turn red, then I go blue, and then I go red again. Part of that Irish skin. I bless it and I'm grateful for it. We are a rainbow. We're a living rainbow here at Unity. Now consider your hair. It's either smooth or straight, vibrantly curly and wavy, something in between, or maybe missing altogether. I love my hair or what there is of it. Together. I love my hair or what there is of it. Terrific. Yay. I wasn't asking you to do it again, but thank you. One more time. I love my hair or what there is of it. Because it's perfect. Because it's you. Consider your body. Breathe. It's not that hard to consider your body. It's yours. It's perfect because it is yours. If you want to change it in some way, begin with loving it where it is. Begin with loving your body where it is because that's your creation. A few years ago, Karl Lagerfeld was on Larry King. He had lost 90 pounds. And Larry King said, how did you do that? 90 pounds, that's a lot of weight. He said, I bought clothing in the size I wanted to be. He said, I had no choice. I had to lose the weight to get into it. See it, affirm it. How you want it to look. I love my body because it's a holy temple of God. Together. I love my body because it's a holy temple of God. Again. I love my body because it's a holy temple of God. One more time. I love my body because it's a holy temple of God. And one day you'll believe that. Most of you do. Some people are like, you see you rolling your eyes inside you. Whether you're a man or a woman, you've come to the planet as perfect expressions of maleness and femaleness, with both energies present in everybody. You are nurturing and powerful. You are loving and wise. You are intelligent and intuitive. So we celebrate ourselves for being the complete whole being that we are. Your sexual orientation is a powerful gift of creativity. Whether hetero, homo, or bisexual, your sexuality is a gift of spirit expressing who you love is not as important as that you do love. Loving is what we're here to do. It's a way of creating wonderful relationships, of creating joy and love and laughter and making life rich and full and wonderful. Why you are like you are is so immaterial. We'll never find out why. We just have to celebrate, this is who I am. Accepting who we are uniquely as a child of God. I believe that we've come here to experience life as human in order to become the powerful spiritual being that we are. One of my favorite channel words is White Eagle, and White Eagle says, you have no idea how we on the other side admire you souls who have taken on physical expression on earth because it's the hardest place to do that. The hardest place to learn about yourself spiritually is through human bodies. It's that if you get it, you've got it. You'll have it forever. So before we came here, we decided we were going to try on different traits. I believe we've lived many times before. And this time around we said, oh, I'm going to try this combination. I'd like to try on the Jamaican woman outfit. I'm going to try on the Latino gay male from Queens for this lifetime. I'm going to try on a Minnesota soccer mom costume this time. And then when I'm 32, I'll move to New York and become a soccer player. We can create whatever life we'd like to. What life would you like to have? You've already created it. All we have to do is say yes to it. Say yes to the life you'd like to see. So we try them on and we get all caught up in the temporary identity as being some kind of limitation, rather than a blessing of revelation, of learning about ourselves as a wonderful spiritual being with this wonderful body, this wonderful hair, this wonderful skin color, this wonderful orientation. So we begin to listen to people out there, and we begin to think, oh, they know better than I do. Nobody likes me because fill in the blank. Nobody likes me because I'm gay. I'm hated because I have an accent. No one gives straight white guys a break anymore. We need a straight pride parade. We forgot my identity is perfect child of God. That's who I am. I am a perfect child of God right now. Perfect meaning whole, complete, nothing missing. People not centered in spirit, center where? Outside. We begin to look here and there instead of inside for what and who we are. I invite you to close your eyes. Go to your heart. Do not take other people's fears as yours. They see their fears reflected in you, that's all. You're a shining mirror of divinity. And that scares some people so much. But what they think of us is none of our business. Bless and release those who do not acknowledge or see you. Bless the bigot, bless the male chauvinist, bless the homophobe, bless and release the Southern Baptist Convention. Release anybody who does not acknowledge you as perfect. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Breathe into your heart. And as we go into our meditation time, sing our way in. Within the silence, there is a sacred place, a secret meeting place. Love is there. Creation of God, I demand and I am treated well. I am honored as a holy being. I am whole, I am prosperous, I am successful. There is nothing keeping me from the holy dream within. Today I say yes to that dream. I say yes to my life. I say yes to the fullness of who I am, a unique, beautiful, wonderful child of God. As individual as a snowflake, never to be repeated ever again. I love myself just the way I am. In the quiet of our being, just for a moment, we listen, we hear, and we allow Spirit to reveal what I need to know today. All it takes is one moment to realize God and I are one. And in this oneness I live, move, and have my being forever. Take another deep breath. And let go. And we sing our way back to this room, this place, with the greatest thing in all my life